Chambers of Muneer, Nisha speaking. How can I help you?
Hello, this is Abdul Aziz from Bertam Valley. We have a problem recently with flooding caused by a nearby dam. It is TNB's fault. We, the villagers, are thinking of suing them since we've incurred a lot of losses.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that, Mr. Aziz. Are you able to come to our office for further discussions?
Yes, thank you. Are you available this Tuesday, 11 a.m.?
This Tuesday, 11 a.m. Wait for a minute.
Okay.
I think yes, we are available. Shall I set the date?
Perfect. I'll also be bringing along some other villagers who are thinking of suing them as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, that will be perfectly fine, Mr. Aziz. We eagerly await your arrival.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. See you then.
Alright, thank you.
Yes, these are my friends that I was saying I was bringing along.
Hi, I'm Aliya. Hi, I'm Atifah. Hi, great to meet you. I'm Nur Atifah. And we are very glad that you come here today to discuss your problem with us. If you go, please follow me to the meeting room. Sure.
Please have a seat. My name is Nisha.
Hi, my name is Aliya.
Okay, now, Mr. Aziz, we understand that you have a problem with the NB dam flooding your village. We are very much eager to help you and the villagers' predicament. So, before we begin, we would like to explain how today's session will be conducted, as well as what you can expect at the end of the session.
Right. For today's consultation, we will begin by you telling us everything you have experienced and things within your knowledge for us to better understand the situation. We may ask a few questions in order to further understand the details. Be assured that everything we discuss today will be kept private and confidential and will not be shared with any party without your express consent. So by the end of this session, we will assess and inform you of what we have gathered and whether we can pursue any legal actions or if there is any alternative in order to help to solve your problem. Understood?
Yes.
Let's begin with what you remember happened during the incident.
So it was raining heavily that night on the 22nd of October. I was sleeping in my bedroom when a loud noise woke me up. I opened my window and I saw water gushing around my house. I quickly woke my husband up and I asked him to take the kids outside. And luckily, because we live near a hill, so around 12:15 a.m. in the morning, we were able to evacuate up the hill. We sat there and watched as the water level rise, and at around 1 a.m. I think another huge wave crashed into our neighborhood. So sadly, our car got swept away, and to this day we haven't found it yet.
I see. What happened after that? How were you able to get to safety?
So we have been told before that in a natural disaster situation, we should all gather at a nearby school. Again, we also live not too far from the school, so around 1:30 a.m. we started to hike towards it to find shelter. We reached the school 15 minutes later and found pretty much all the villagers gathered up in the school hall. And then, rescuers and volunteers have already started to hand out blankets and clothes for all the victims.
When were you able to go home?
The rain subsided around 9 a.m. in the morning, and by 12 p.m. the rescuers announced that it was safe to return to our home. So they carried us by groups in their van. When it came to our turn, we arrived to a badly damaged neighborhood. Fences had collapsed, as well as some people's house walls. Some wooden sheds were entirely swept up. For us, all of our electronics were damaged, as well as many belongings like my husband's heirloom watch that was very valuable and has sentimental value to him. We were out of electricity for 3 days and had to wait for volunteers to send us fresh water for the week. My children also couldn't attend school for 2 weeks.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Aliya. We hope you can find peace before we begin with your problem. Okay then, Mr. Aziz, can you please explain again how you were able to know it was the NB's fault?
I called my employee the morning after the flood happened, since I was in Klang for business, because I saw the morning news and I was shocked to find that Bertam Valley had flooded. My employee explained to me that what happened that morning, but luckily he was living at a higher elevation and was not affected that much, as well as my wife and children. But he informed me that 80% of my crops in my farm was destroyed in the flood, since it was located rather close to the dam. I then phoned an acquaintance who worked at the dam to ask if the dam was broken, and to my surprise, he said that the dam was intact. When I pressed further, he admitted that there had been miscalculation of some sorts by the workers there, and they had accidentally released too much water that morning. I was furious and immediately sent emails to the MB asking for explanations. From what I heard from the villagers, 3 waves of flood hit the village at 12, 1 and 2 am because of the dam spilling excess water due to the heavy rain.
Did they respond at all?
They did, but they never directly addressed the incident. We farmers actually have an irrigation agreement with the MB where they would supply us with water for our crops. So they just assured us that the irrigation system was not affected and they will continue supplying water. Never mind the fact that almost all of my vegetation was gone. They will have the audacity to keep demanding payment for the irrigation. So the other farmers began to boycott them as well, while some of the other unaffected farmers stood in solidarity with us. The audacity of the NB.
There does seem like a lot of friction is involved here. It will add complications when the other party is not cooperative or even hostile. What about you, Mrs. Atifah? Would you like to share your experience?
Yes, Miss Aunah, but before that, I would like to apologize if I cannot control my emotion in between of this session. It's because I still cannot get over that my husband already passed away. So, my husband and I are immigrants working for one of the farmers in Bertam Valley. That morning, I remember that my husband waking me up around 11 p.m. to get to safety because of the rising water. This was shortly before the first wave crashed into our house, since we live quite far away from the village. I begged him to come with me, but he insisted on braving the storm to warn his other friends. I tried to call him so many times, but he never picked up the call. And actually, at around 3 a.m. in the morning, so throughout the night, after I called him so many times, I think at around 3 a.m. in the morning, I finally saw some of my friend's husband from the farm starting to enter the school where I stayed. But I cannot see my husband. So I asked them, where is my husband? And then they told me the horrifying news. They all said that my husband was last seen helping the villagers escape from the rising waters before being swept away by the flood to his death. Do you want to see the picture that I took on that day, hoping that my husband would come with their friends?
Yes, sure.
So these are the picture. So I see these are all my friend's husband, but I cannot see him. So later I found out that they're all not able to see my husband. They cannot find their body until the next morning of that day. So I was called to the hospital to identify his body. And up to these days, at some nights, I will always wake up from nightmares of him drowning and not being able to call my name. This is so sad. I cannot live without my husband.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Atifah. Considering the weight of the situation, we think it is better for each of you to at least keep evidence of this conversation, and if it is possible, it would be good for each of you to get the confirmation from the other parties like your employee and the acquaintance of yours to support your claim in the court. We will help you to find justice at all costs. It seems like we have all the information we need so far. So if you would like, we can summarize what we have learned today. On early morning on the 23rd of October, the villagers of Kampung Bertam Valley were hit with the flash floods as the result of TNB's mismanagement of their dam upstream. They did not warn you of the impending danger at all before the incident. People were forced to evacuate to safety, and many incurred heavy losses to their personal property and also their livelihoods, as well as loss of life. To these days, the villagers have to deal with aftermath like no access to clean water and disruptions to electricity. So Mr. Aziz, who has his livelihood stripped away from him, is also dealing with huge losses to his business as a supplier of fresh vegetables. Is that correct? Yes.
So it seems here from what you have told us, there is a possibility to bring a case of negligence against TNB for improper management of their dam. As a body that is responsible for maintaining public infrastructure, it is obvious that there has been a severe lack of proper protocols or safety mechanisms to prevent this matter from ever happening. The fact that the monsoon season is a common occurrence means that there should have some kind of safety measures in place to divert excess water safely. However, we will have to look into reports and assessments before we can pursue this line of reasoning. Nevertheless, TNB still owe the villagers safety from their activities. Finally, we believe that the residents of Kampung Bertam Valley can bring representative action or class action lawsuit so that every person affected by the flood can claim for compensation.
Yes, so from the information gathered here today, we can summarize that the main issue that we have is that whether TNB was negligent in their duty to maintain the dam, and if so, what are the damages that you can claim against TNB. This means that we must analyze whether TNB had the responsibility to maintain the dam up to a reasonable standard and whether they have followed the safety protocols. As for the evidence from you, we advise you to collect and list down all the damages that you have suffered from loss of belongings and income. If there's no further questions, I think we can end the session here today. We'll do some research and contact you for any updates for the next session, as well as if we need further clarifications or documentation from you to help build our case.
Thank you for the session today, and I hope we can see you soon.
Hi, Ms. Aziz, Mrs. Atifah and Mrs. Aliya. Welcome back to our firm. Please, have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have your attention to the slides? Right. A little bit of recap from our previous meeting. There has been 3 releases of water from Sultan Abu Bakar Dam on the 23rd October of 2013 that flooded Bertam Valley. As a result, the villagers' property were destroyed, livelihood were affected, and some even lost their lives. Currently, you wish to be compensated for the losses that you have suffered, is that right?
Yeah, that is right.
Okay. Now, the main ground of your claim would be that TNB was negligent in managing and operating the dam. Now, the release of water from SLB dam is controlled based on the storage capacity of the water in the reservoir. As you can see, the original operational minimum water level is at 3,474 feet and with the top at 3,515 feet. But the operational minimum water level on that material that is 3,495 feet. This is because there's a loss of 21 feet of water storage. This decrease of water storage is due to the problems of sedimentation and rubbishes in the reservoir. So what TNB might do is that they might try to shift their blame to the continued act of deforestation, intensive agricultural activities and disposal of rubbish upstream, which led to the sedimentation and also the extreme rain during the monsoon season. We argue that TNB, as the owner of the dam, had the bounden duty to ensure the safety of the residents downstream and their properties. It is TNB's responsibility to take all the necessary measures to maintain the water level of the dam at a safe level, particularly during the monsoon season. One step is to conduct a large scale of dredging or deslating regularly, irrespective of the cost to be incurred, as life and properties of the residents is the paramount importance. Also, by saying that at the material time, it was an extraordinary heavy rain which carried a huge volume of rubbish, which then choked the Batam intake spring, does not ward off the TNB's responsibility to maintain the dam and to ensure that it functions at all times, taking into account all the risks of the increase of water level at the dam, particularly during rainy season. So we would say that there is no excuses for the act of negligence. Are you okay so far?
Yes, quite clear now.
Now, apart from negligence, we may also put forward arguments on the principle of violence versus Fletcher. And this principle is that a person would be liable if he brings something onto his land and made unnatural use of his land. The thing was not something likely to do mischief if it's escape, and then the escape caused damages. The good thing about this argument is that we don't need to prove negligence. We can refer to a diagram here in this case, which is very similar to our case. So in this case, the defendant employed contractor to build a reservoir here, and then they found a unused mine shaft under this reservoir. But then that did not shut the opening of this mine shaft, and they continued to fill in water. So what happened is that the water flowed down of this old mine shaft and then flooded the plaintiff mine downstream. So in this case, the defendant was liable for the escape of the water. Although this principle is English law, but then it is applicable in Malaysia, as we can see in the case of Abdul Rahman bin Chengna versus Putih bin Samad, and also the case of Lembaga Kemajuan Tanah Persekutuan versus TNB. And in these both cases, the defendants were liable for the escape of fire from his land to the plaintiff land. Okay. Now, in Batam Valley case, if you can refer to this diagram, it is not disputed that Sultan Abu Bakar Dam is maintained by TNB, right? Now, on 23rd October 2013, TNB released water from the dam, which caused flood and destruction to the properties and loss of life in Batam Valley. So there was indeed an intentional act of controlled spilling or escape of water from the dam. This squarely falls within the facts for the application of the principle of Ryland and Fletcher. So TNB may be held liable for the damages caused to you, even if he is not negligent. So to summarize, we believe that you have a very good grounds against TNB, which are TNB acted negligently by breaching their duty of care towards villagers of Batam Valley. Even if they are not negligent, they are strictly liable under the principle of Ryland versus Fletcher for the escape of water.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Now my colleague will explain about the evidences needed to establish your case.
After understanding what had happened, I am certain that you stand a good chance for your case against TNB, provided that our case is supported by the essential evidence. To begin, since you mentioned that 100% of your electronic belongings were damaged due to the flood, if you get any of your electronics appliances repaired, it is commendable for you to prepare or get the damage report in order to show the total damage that you have suffered. For instance, the repairing cost or replacing cost of your husband's heirloom watch. As a matter of fact, if you did get any other important things repaired or damaged, it would be best for you to prepare repairing reports, receipts, and also other related documents as well. And Other than that, since Mr. Aziz had mentioned earlier that you had contacted some other parties whom had themselves better access to the severity of the situation, it would be best if we could also get our hands on their witness statement. Since you have told us that he was not affected much and had been the one informing you of your farm's condition during the flood, it is best to get a statement from him as an eyewitness to testify on the severity of the situation that had costed you a lot. Additionally, since you mentioned that you had an acquaintance that you had contacted who worked at the dam, getting a statement would be for the best of your result. You had also previously mentioned that during the flood, you had tried contacted the NB for help, but to no avail for several times, the response had never been of help. Hence, it is advisable for you to keep record of these communications that you had done, such as the emails you have sent to the NB to show your efforts on mending the situation and also their reluctance to attend to the situation and damage it had caused to you and other residents as well. If there's any other means that you have contacted with the NB, you may also provide us with the records. If you could also maybe get more evidences from other residences, such as communications, that would be best. Not to forget, I extend my deepest condolences to you, Mrs. Atifah, for the loss you had to suffer due to this unfortunate event. Your loss of your husband is very much unfortunate and unfathomable. Considering that, we advise you to prepare or get some documentation which prove his death and its causes being related to the flood. As mentioned in the previous meeting, it would be best if you could produce the necessary documentation such as death certificate and coroner's report to prove to the court of the loss of your husband and its relation to the flood being the cause. I also suggest that not only Mrs. Atifah but also the other parties to prepare and produce the medical examination reports of each affected parties should you suffer from any health effects from the flood due to the flood itself or due to the lack of access to clean water afterwards.
Alright, I now see the importance of the production of these documents. We will try our best to obtain the necessary documents and contact you for further confirmation. I really hope we can do all our best to help you build this case.
1. We understand that this disastrous event had caused so much miseries and difficulties in the lives of all the residents. Thus, we can assure you that if evidence are able to be produced to support each of your claims, rest assured we will stand a good chance against the NB for their responsibility in this matter. If you need any assistance on the evidence that are required, please do not hesitate to contact me. We would figure everything out together. Now, my colleague will further explain on the remedies available in this action for each of you.
Alright, we have discussed the defendant's liability and evidence. We can now move on to what remedies you can claim for the loss you have suffered. Before we begin, I would like to extend my condolences to you, Mrs. Atifah, for your loss. It must be hard losing your husband, and on top of that, we also have to handle the aftermath of the flood by yourself. Mr. Aziz and Mrs. Aliya, I cannot imagine how shocked you were and sad you were to find your house severely damaged and to lose all your precious belongings. I am so sorry that you have to experience all that. But worry not, we are here to help all of you to claim all the losses that you have suffered. Usually, for personal injury, we can claim damages which are classified under special and general damages. You can refer to the slides here for better understanding while I explain to you by one. So, special damages are actually pecuniary loss. Do you know what is pecuniary loss?
No.
So, pecuniary loss is actually your out-of-pocket expenses which you suffered between the date of the incident and the date of the trial that is capable of precise and exact quantification. For example, your medical expenses, your loss of personal belonging, transport expenses for you and for your family visits, and also loss of earnings. Meanwhile, general damages are awarded for future financial losses which cannot be specifically proven and non-quantifiable losses. For example, your pain and suffering, it is to compensate for both physical pain and emotional suffering. Other than that, you may also claim for fatal accident claims, which is damages awarded as compensation for claims irrespective of death. This may be applicable to you, Mrs. Atifah, because you have lost your husband due to this incident, right?
Yes, correct.
So, under this claim, you can claim for dependency claim, which is loss of support. Loss of support can only be claimed where three conditions have been filled, which is firstly, your husband must be at the age of below 55 years old at the time of the incident, and secondly, your husband was in good health Thirdly, your husband must have been receiving earnings prior to his death. I am sure you have fulfilled all these conditions, right, Mrs. Atifah?
Yes.
Then I think we have no problem claiming for loss of support in your case. Other than that, you may also claim for bereavement. So, a person may claim for the damages for bereavement are the spouse or the parents of the deceased. The sum to be awarded as damages for this claim is fixed amount of 10,000 ringgit. This can be referred in the case of Nur Famiza Zabri versus Awang Muda, where in this case, the plaintiff's husband was killed in a road accident. The court allowed her claim for bereavement at a fixed amount of 10,000 ringgit without any interest on the award for damages. So in your case, we are in the opinion that you are entitled to claim for bereavement damages as you are the spouse of the deceased. Other than that, you may also claim for funeral expenses. These damages can be awarded if such expenses have been incurred by you. And lastly, property damages to compensate for your houses that were severely damaged because of this incident. So all of you can claim for property damages. If your house was totally destroyed, the normal measure of damages is the market value of the house. In other words, you may receive compensation for the market value of your house or destroyed property plus the cost hiring replacement of any loss or profit that has been caused. However, if the property has been repaired, then the cost of the repair will be awarded. I think that is all for the remedies. Do you have any questions?
No, for now.
Alright.
To sum up, we believe that you have a strong case against TNB. You may proceed to take action against TNB with the other affected residents. This may help you with sharing costs and strengthen your overall case. Our teams of lawyers are ready to assist you.
So after we heard all of your explanations, can we know about the fees for today's consultation?
Oh, about the fees, we will charge you 300 per hour for the work done by the us, excluding the usual court expenses. We will issue you an invoice later on. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Then we would like to proceed with the case against the NBA.
And please help us to the utmost of your ability. I beg you.
Yeah, after we heard all the explanations, we think that we have confidence in you and also your things. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.